Hi, everybody. This is Robin Pradhananga. So, the topic that we are going to discuss today is one of the hot topic and one of the topic probably discussed a lot recently and lots of attraction. At the same time, lots of confusions as well. One of the major confusion that QA testing folks are currently facing is um, how secure my job is. Right? So the question that I raised here, or that is in most of the people's mind, will software QA tester lose their jobs due to use of AI in testing? Um, Simple question, but at the same time very deep and very important to think about. Um, so as you know, the everything is changing, world is changing, and especially with AI coming into the picture. Um, Big or small company, they are jumping to take the advantage of AI-driven tools to make their processes simple, simplify the process, uh, making sure the quality check is proper, making sure delivery is happening on time, and they are able to attract or keep customer uh, with the proper or with the um, better applications, better softwares, so that they can keep their customer, they can attract more customers into their platform. So that's the key that every company is focusing, and with the AI, they want to make sure that they are in the forefront of acquiring, consuming um, advantages of AI and making sure that they are working in the next generation or they are working for the next generation and not getting behind. So similarly for QA also, we are kind of in the zone where we want to make sure that we get into the field or we get into the understanding of AI as soon as because challenges are right there, right next to your door, right outside your door, to make sure that you have AI understanding, you know what AI does, you know what AI or how AI can benefit your day-to-day QA activity, and you know how to integrate or make AI benefit you in some shape and form so that it's not going to be you who's going to lose their job. Um, so with saying that, I would definitely say to all the QA folks out there who might be thinking that this question all the time, that I would say relax, first of all, uh, but definitely you'll have to grow and you'll have to learn more and make that learning towards AI as well. If already you are not doing, then make sure you start somewhere, somehow, so that you can consume the advantage of AI and keep that as a helper tool for your daily activity. Then it will definitely change the way you work, the way you think of AI, and you will understand how does it make your life easier and how does it make you a better QA since quality is the core of any QA. So first off, let's try to dig deeper into what challenges we might be facing right now without AI or without having an AI understanding or without using AI in any shape and form. Um, so we already know, since you guys are working as a QA or getting trained as a QA or trying to be a QA, whatever the situation you are in, we as a QA always face the issue with the human limitations, right? So being ineffective, right? Ineffectiveness, the releases cycles are getting slower, um, the defects are getting um, defects are not being identified or caught on time. Um, so these are some major issues that we face daily. Um, for the traditional QAs who is not integrating any AI or not using any AI as an assistant tool. Uh, Now let's talk a little more about each of those issues. So slow and ineffective testing, right? So how does that impact? Or how we face those situations? So issue is like again, manual testing. Everybody knows takes time, resources, right? So more time, more money, more number of resources, more money. And when we say more resources, probably we might come back to our question that we raised earlier, which is QAs, testers might lose the job if you are not using AI or you are not getting close to AI or you are not understanding AI. So that is kind of in some way real, but make sure that you are going to that direction. So without AI, what happens, right? So manual testing will be heavier. So we are heavily relying on manual testing. Obviously, that takes tons and tons of time. And since we will be testing rigorously for our applications, so multiple cycles of it, so the human nature, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you get tired, brain gets fatigued, and you might let go a lot of stuff, or you might not be that attentive to catch the issues, that defect or bugs in that application. Obviously, right? So testing manually or heavily depending upon manual testing slows the testing processes. So you won't be able to do things on time, or you won't be able to get things completed on time. And in that rush, or either you miss the deadline, or to meet the deadline, you rush and you miss things. So problem, the long-lasting testing cycle can delay the release, obviously, right? So you gotta release the software on time, because you don't give software to the customer, then your customer you might be losing, or the business might be losing customer. So you want to make sure that happens. But with slow and ineffective testing, either you are giving software or software updates late, or giving the software updates with the problem. So in both things are bad for customer facing companies, big or small. Uh, Without AI, obviously, no automation for repeated testings. Again, it's a even without AI, there are automation testing happening. But again, right, so with the integration of AI, it becomes more better. So the first statement, no automation for repeated testing, kind of not there. The manual tester must run the same test cases repeatedly without an optimization. Right? Again, so manual testing, um, too much work, overwork, repetition of the work, so it becomes kind of hectic. So that's the first bullet point: slow and ineffective testing. Incomplete test coverage. So lack of comprehensive test cases. So one of the major areas where testing does not become adequate, or we might miss things, or the defects are not found during the testing cycle, might one of the major reason for that might be the test coverage, right? So we don't have the proper test coverage. The test cases that we have is not enough, or is not up to date, or whatever, right? So all that test case coverages are creating the test cases, making sure those are updated properly with the requirement. All those are manual activity as well. Um, which leads to, again, right? So if we don't have a proper test coverage, we are not testing enough. If you're not testing enough, risk of letting the bugs go into the production, right? and customer being impacted, or the company being impacted because customer is not able to do what they're supposed to do in the application. So the impact is, again, the quality of your application not good, um, and that creates the concern. Uh, Now, without AI, what will happen? Your test case generation is, again, manual process. It's taking too long. Again, very hectic because kind of repetitions, right? Creating test cases or writing test cases is not easy. It takes time, it takes mind, it takes resources, and also it takes patience. So if you're doing the same thing over and over again, there might be a chance of error, and there might be a chance of some test cases getting missed. So this kind of issues can happen, and with that miss, obviously comes down to the quality of an application. So test coverage might get fragmented or ineffectively allocated. That means you don't have enough. You don't have a proper test cases. Not good. Not good if you're trying to check the quality of an application. Number three is the higher risk of human error, right? So obviously, right, so if you're not using any tool, then you are using more human activity. And whenever humans are involved, right, so we know us, we know you. We tend to make mistake, right? Though it doesn't matter how planned or how detailed we are or how focused we are, there's chance of error, right? We are not machine. It's definitely great to become a machine, especially so that we make less mistakes. But at the same time, we cannot be, and let the machine do their stuff. Let us be the master for those machines. So that's what this issues is all about, right? So we increase the human, we increase the manual activity, um, and that leads to overlooking of some small issues. If the applications are complex, right? It's a big project, right? So big applications, multiple layers, right? So multiple interactions and multiple features and tons of those kind of things, then there's a higher chance of things being missed small. Sometimes those small things can be bigger once it goes to the production. So again, the quality of an application does not does not does not get better. Obviously, we are compromising the overall quality of an application because of those errors. Human error, yes, but again, um, your application is not up to the point at the end of the day. So manual processes are more susceptible to mistakes due to human limitation. Test cases can be skipped or executed incorrectly due to fatigue, distraction, or oversight, right? So we get tired, we get distracted, right? So, and it's a problem. It becomes a problem, right? And that leads to overwork. That leads to your customer not being happy, your company not being happy of your work, though you have work diligently and added a lot of effort towards that project, towards that application. But at the end of the day, if the quality is not good, then not a lot of happy faces. Ineffective test maintenance. So difficulty in maintaining tests with frequent changes. Now again, change is part of the project these days, right? So we follow Agile. That means we always want, or we there will be changes because not everything is decided from the get-go. So things will change, added, taken out, right? So updated. Those kind of modifications happens all the time. UI modifications or a new feature or taking the feature out or tons of those kind of things happens all the time. And obviously, right? So if you're working as a QA, it's a headache because then you'll have to manually update your test cases or scripts to match whatever changed, right? Which takes time. It's time consuming. And again, I mean, if you are changing, you're going into each of those scripts, something changed, something updated, and then you have to adjust your script whatever new or whatever new kind of logic or whatever new kind of flow is added or taken out, whatever, right? So adjustment to that is tedious work, right? Again, manual work. Um, so without AI, the process is not optimized and it becomes more error prone, right? So you change more, you touch more, you break more, right? So either that is a code or that is your test cases. You touch more, you break more. You try to fix something, you might break something, right? So because of the human error. Okay. So the test case, if you don't do, obviously the test case becomes outdated. Um, But since it takes time and all, right? So we see lots of we might have a habit of keeping that in our mind, saying that okay, the test case is not what it is supposed to be, but I will go with it. So you'll be running some scripts, but the requirement is slightly different. You're adjusting because you know it, but if somebody comes in, then it's a problem, right? It's not a proper testing. So increased maintenance overhead, longer time to fix broken test, delayed test execution, right? So everything is kind of delayed, right? So you need to update for the changes. That takes time. Then that gets into your execution phase, right? It's away your time in the execution phase. So delayed in execution, that means the delivery gets delayed, right? So the overall projects might get delayed, and that's not good, right? Inefficient maintenance. So there's no self-healing mechanism for broken test cases, so it does not happen automatically with the change that has been suggested or that has undergone. So without AI, not possible, has to be done manually, and either it's done insufficiently or it's not done. It stays outdated, or when it's done manually, there might be chance of some more problems to be added. So overall, it creates the risk to the quality of an application. Number 5 is the lack of predictive insights. So whatever we discussed so far can slip into how much trust can we put into on the testing that we have done. So definitely, QA members are one of the smart members in the team. The knowledge, experience to identify areas of application are most likely to contain defects, right? So we kind of expertise on that, right? So we use our knowledge, we use our experience to find the problems in the application, and we raise that as a defect. It gets fixed, we test it without AI. Now, since if you are not using tool like that, then um, just relying on past experience might not be enough all the time, right? So I have 20 years of experience doing the same thing. I have done it every single month for past 20 years. Still does not mean that um, you might not make mistake, right? Um, there will be problem, right? So we might miss things, right? It doesn't matter how big the team is, right? Or how experienced the folks are. There's always risk of mistakes, right? And that creates the predictiveness, right? So the our testing might not be, predictive, or the outcome of our testing is not kind of not trustworthy all the time, right? So then that itself can play negatively for the testing team. So which leads to increased chances of defects in production, right? So we tested, we finished our regression cycle, everything was okay, 100% executed, no defect found. But once it goes into the production, some of the defect that we did not detect during the testing phase might start popping up and might cause a significant impact in the production, right? So then we might have to revisit it, right? So those kind of discussions are not good. So predictability is not up to the mark without some kind of tool that helps um, to identify those risk areas or the areas that has a potential problem needs to be thoroughly tested, right? So we might miss it. So test cases are prioritized based on subjective decision rather than data-driven insights. So here we prioritize our testing is based on your knowledge and experience, not based on the data, right? So what does the data show, right? So we are not uh, uh, reading that, right? So what are the area, like for example, an application, right? So which application is being of the feature of which application is being used mostly, or how it is being used mostly, right? So if you don't have that kind of data, then we might miss the kind of testing that we're supposed to do. There's no machine learning to help predict the next most likely defect areas based on the past data, right? So again, we are not using AI, we are not using ML. So that means we are using our subjective decisions instead of data, right? So our predictable the data um, the data that we get from the AI or ML applications, right? So past data is important. Difficulty in managing large volumes of data, right? So again, data is good, data is needed for testing, but if there's too much data, right, then if you're doing things manually or if you're doing things with old tools, then you will struggle to handle those kind of big data, right? Even the data that you want to get for um, some insights, right? To see how it went or how it is going or where's the problem, those kind of thing, it becomes difficult. The data is simply too big, right? It's impossible, or it takes tremendous amount of time to go through that data to get to some understanding, right? Application grows, data generated will be growing as well, right? So for test, you want data, and the test data that you want to use for your testing to make your testing better, that might increase exponentially, and that becomes difficult to maintain, right? So which is good, which is bad, what to use and what not, right? So without the help of AI kind of tool, then you will be doing a try and catch, right? So you're trying the data, it does not work, go for another one, and so forth and so on. Or if you're reading through logs, then you are using your expert eye to look through it, which takes tons of time since it's manually done, labor intensive, right? And easy to miss it, right? Because it's your eye, right? Sometime though your experience, even your experience, I can miss things. So, so without AI again, QA team may struggle to analyze test results quickly, right? So you'll have to take time to analyze the result, which gets delayed, right? Somebody's waiting for your feedback and you're delaying, right? So, or if there's any problem, it takes time to identify what exactly the problem is, right? The critical box again, not getting detected and the quality getting significant hit. Um, So again, right, it's the same thing, right? So logs, performance metrics needs to be manually reviewed, which is slow, ineffective, right? So AI-based log analysis tool that could detect patterns, errors, performance, right? So definitely we cannot compare a human eye versus the AI-based tools, which is much smarter and doesn't get tired, though the data is big. Limited test scalability, right? Um, Obviously, right, if it is human, scalability becomes an issue, right? Sometimes the testing cycle might be kind of slow. Sometimes the testing cycle might be huge, right? Sometimes the testing cycle might be a little simpler. Sometimes it might be complex. It's based on the applications, based on when are we testing, based on how are we testing, right? So all that kind of thing can come into play. So whenever we need to do rigorous testing, right, the testing has to be in multiple different ways, multiple different layers. Then with the only manual testing effort, the scalability becomes very restrictive, right? So obviously, you cannot just hire people just like that and increase testing team from 5 to 200, right? Just like that exponentially to for the better quality testing. And again, that's not doable as well, right? So the cost, right? So nobody wants to hire 200 QAs when 5 QAs is able to do it. Limited ability to handle large distributed systems or platform cross-platform testing, right? Again, testing uh, obviously as a QA, testing is not just one directional. There is multi-directional testing happening, multiple different ways, multiple different types, right? So probably multiple different applications, multiple different integrations, right? So coordinations. Multiple different groups of testing, right? So that is happening. So those all that will get impacted because of we are mostly on the manual side of testing. Inconsistent and delayed reporting, right? So like we mentioned, everything gets delayed because we are doing things manual process, right? I might be sounding like a broken record by now. Manual process slow, right? So for reporting, you'll have to understand it, right? So you might take time to understand, you might take time to gather information for your reporting. So which will obviously impact your delivery time, right? A report might not be good, so your report might be um, not up to the point or missing things, missing information, right? Anytime there is a delay in a reporting, obviously, right, it's a resolution time, right? So if it is in terms of defect, the resolution time becomes longer, right? And the back and forth, right? So the feedback cycles will be slower and overall again, right? So the application or your project length or your testing cycle or the overall delivery takes a big hit. So manual bug report generation requires constant effort. Report may lack important content or detail, like I mentioned earlier, but AI tool can help that to do significantly, right? So it can generate auto reports, it can create a proper format, and obviously it's a tool, so it might have less chance of missing things, right? So obviously, that's why um, if we are not up to the point, um, definitely chance of losing the job, right? So that's right. So this is the session to make sure that we cover that part. Challenges in regression testing. So high effort in repeating test with every change. Like we mentioned earlier, adjusting to change or changing to changes, right? Either that is requirement or that is something else of that application in the code. So the test will be again regression cycle, right? So you're repeating the cycle over and over again. Either something new is added or something some break in code has been fixed. So the regression testing is kind of a regular activity that we do, right? So everybody knows that. So our regression cycle is a cycle that goes in circle and goes for quite some uh, frequency, right? So it has to run multiple times. If it is again, right, so running manually, right, so it takes tons of time. Let's say your regression cycle takes probably 3 days or 5 days if you do it manually with 4 or 5 resources. Um, and if you have to do that for every sprint or every cycle, it can become a problem, right? Let's say because 5 resources gotta take some vacation days, might be get sick, or somebody might leave, right? So you never know if you do too much of manual testing, that might happen. So time consuming at the same time, right? Some unforeseen situations, right? The your regression cycle gets impacted. Obviously, if that is going slow or that is stuck, right? Bottleneck, it becomes a problem, right? It's going very slow and everything is stopped until your testing is going on, right? It slows down everything, right? So testing slows down everything. Your regression cycle slows down everything. And that's what QA team don't want it to happen, right? So we don't want to have ball in our court, right? So that's how we want to make sure that things are going smoothly on the QA side, right? So when we are doing our testing. So we don't want to be bottleneck in that project, right? So obviously, we don't want to have bottleneck in our project. But to be precise, we don't want us to be a bottleneck in the project. So our regression cycle, we want to have it smooth, but without any tool into picture, any AI-driven tool into the picture, the regression cycle becomes a challenge to run it for every changes, every addition, every new code, every updated code. So automation can become a problem. All right, so those are the challenges. Kind of we talked about 9 challenges that I highlighted over here for what if, or what are the challenges that QA face without AI understanding or without using, or the QA team not using an AI-driven tool or tool as such, and just depending heavily on manual testing. Okay, so let's take a pause and then we'll discuss about what are the advantages uh, for QA who have freshened their mind with AI understanding and who is taking the challenge of learning AI and integrating AI in their quality testing process. All right, we'll be back.